Hey everybody, we're getting ready to get started here. I'm just getting moving my stuff around so we can get into it today. How are you? Happy Womanhood Wisdom Wednesday to the beautiful people out there in good girl goddess land. Hey, sugar. Hi there. How ya doing? We're going to go on and do some invitations here and get started. Keela, I know I'm going to have you on, definitely. But you know, as spirit would have it, there's definitely been some other things to motivate my sharing. And so I'm going to get into that in just a moment as I invite people to join us. I love you all so much because, you know, when I get a chance to work with you, it's really easy to live in a bubble. A lot of people say don't put on rose-colored glasses, but it's really easy to put on rose-colored glasses, and it's sometimes good to put on rose-colored glasses to disconnect from all of the jaded people out there, the green, and also the mind control is so easy to create that world around you. And I'm gonna tell you, first of all, let me introduce myself to those who, but I'm telling you why I love you. Let me introduce myself to those who may be joining for the very first time. I am LaTanya Taylor, affectionately called the Rev Coach, the Juicy Spirit Mama, the Priestess of Purpose, Pleasure, and Passion. And you can find me at rebirthinternational.net should you have any questions after this. But for now, I'm just saying that I got experience with being able to kind of get into my own zone because of my story. You know, I came into a very sheltered world. You know, this whole good girls gone goddess is no joke, right? I came into a sheltered world of religion at the age of 19. So it was very easy for me to be surrounded by other people who thought like me. And not only that, there was an economic development portion of me being a part of the Nation of Islam in particular. And so then after that, I started to discover other communities of healing, of metaphysics. And so for the most part, it's very easy for me to be in a space of accountability, spiritual accountability, to dive deeper into spaces of introspection, of questioning, because for most of my life, basically my adult life, I've been in those types of communities. For some of you, hey sweetheart, for some of you, it's still very new. And so when I get a chance to talk to you, no matter what age or where you are in your walk or in your life or your development, I get a chance to be reminded that everybody hasn't had the opportunity to question, to dive in, to explore, and most of all, to be held accountable. Y'all like my little thing? My first time wearing it. My bracelet, I made that. Tapping into this other side of me that's always been there. I'm so proud of this piece. Can you see it? Can you see my piece? I'm so proud of it. So I was thinking about you, and I think about you all often. And so I started out to share some other things with you today. Still definitely on topic with what do you want? Like, what do you really want? And I'm hoping that, I can get into that a little bit more with you today. Okay. So I want you to participate with me a little bit, along this way, along this journey of sharing. I'm going to be quite clear with you that a new session of the Juicy You has started, right? A new session of the Juicy You has started. It doesn't matter if you've taken the Juicy You before. I'm still inviting you to consider taking it again. Not again. Actually, let me back that up. I call it recreating. You're not doing it over. You're recreating, because my programs are designed to meet you at the different seasons of your life. And some of us are so resistant and have so many, I see my boobs showing. Wait a minute. Are resistant and have so much resistance and so many layers that a lot of times it takes several processes to get through the layers that prevent that. You got through one layer, you had an awareness, you're lighter, you're freer, but then you start to move in your life and then you're like, okay, wait a minute, there's more. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to tell you that invitation is open at the top before we even start. I have been offering different specials today, and let's see what comes up as we continue on in this place. I've been asking some questions, right? Because I started off by saying you all motivate what it is that I'm about to say and what I'm going to share. And you add flavor to it through some of the conversations that we've been having, whether it be in coaching sessions, consultations, inboxes, or whatever the case may be. And so I just love you all. I love us because we think we're grown. Me too. And let me start off before I get into how grown we think we are. Even us in our grownness, we love receiving gifts. Thank you so much to Monique for sending me this. I saw it. She shared it, and it's a butterfly. And if you can see there, it has words on it. And the words say, put on your brave girl wings. Oh, I love that. It ties so perfectly in to what I'm going to share with you today. Put on your brave girl wings, because some of us think that we are grown and we have attitudes about being grown. And we have that memory of, when I get grown, ain't nobody going to be able to tell me what to do. And so we think we're grown when we get married. We think we're grown when we have children. Yeah, we're grown in the sense that, yes, we do have some responsibilities. But who's running your tape? Who's really running your marriage? Who's really running your household? Who's really running your business? Because running is the key word. Many of us are not really present. We're not really present with our grownness. And so I asked the question, what do you want? What do you really want? And what do you really, really, really want? I was in a process, and I remember when that's a question that anybody can ask. That's a question that can come up at any time. That's a question that sometimes when people get frustrated, they'll ask you, what do you want from me? What is it that you want from me? I don't get it. You could ask that to a husband. You can have that with a girlfriend. What do you want from me? Damn it. And the truth is, sometimes, tell the truth now. Haven't you had moments when asked that question, you had to pause and ask yourself, well, damn, what do I really want from this person? And, then sometimes you think about it. You go down a list and you start to say, well, I want this, I want that, because of course you're just looking at what is not being met at that particular time, right? You're looking at what is not being offered up at that particular time. And there's a reason for that, right? And sometimes you can even be in a position where you're getting what you want. And many of us, even in our little girlness, our grown woman, really, sorry, edit. We are grown women with all of these unmet needs. And so now we've become so such a much that we call them wants, we call them preferences. And the truth of the matter is we never stopped, slowed down, or stayed with, because some of you do know what the unmet need is. Sips tea. We don't deal with what the unmet need is. And unmet needs do turn into wants. So I said that I was going to teach this, to share this in the Juicy You space. But hey, why not get a preview right here in this space, right? Want is the key word. Want. It blew my mind. Even though I had gone through this spiritual process, and the part of the process is people, they get in your face and they scream, "What do you want?" And you're supposed to answer, "What do you want?" Then they ask you again, "What do you want?" And then they ask you again, "What do you want?" And then they ask you again, "What do you want?" And it's shocking to have someone in your face. And then the other emotions come up, because you might want to feel like punching the person who's getting in your face. But you know you're in a process and you want to answer. But at the same time, I found my words also being choked. I mean, like literally, I could feel like, if you can imagine that there are walls inside or rooms inside of me, I could feel them being shut down. And then, and all the fire and the passion that I have had about what I have said that I want, it turned into a whisper. And oftentimes that's the truth about us in our life. That's how you know you really don't know sometimes. Sometimes you really don't know because you haven't ever had your needs met. And so let me talk a little bit about that from the place of want. Later on, as I did that preliminary process, I was coaching with a man this time. I was coaching with a brother, and he said to me, I was talking about something about wants, my wants, something about what I wanted. Probably at that time, it might have been what I wanted in a man or something like that. And he said to me, he said, wanting begets more wanting, because want is the absence of the thing. And so many of us are focused on what we want to the point of obsession because it's not there yet. It's not there. And so wanting makes you think of more wanting. It is a lack consciousness. It's a form of lack consciousness. And that is why it feeds on itself. It feeds the impoverished feminine. Y'all know that all of my posts, they lead up to this Wednesday or the Sunday or the session that we're in. I do have a strategy, so I do encourage you to follow me, comment, like my posts, because that way you can see them when they come up, and feed yourself or jump in the conversation and feed me. Hell, it doesn't just have to be me feeding you. And so the want. And I was like, wow. Now, at this time, I was not doing the work of the feminine. I was doing the spiritual work. So you got to know, in terms of my process, I came in doing personal development, spiritual work, and to me, they're kind of one and the same, but I know that you could go somewhere and do personal development and not do spiritual work. And sometimes it's disguised, right? because so many of the business personal development processes basically have been watered down, taking out the spiritual language so that it can appeal to people at different points with different religions in the workplace. So at that point, I had been doing all of the transformation work. I was coach, metaphysician, minister, but I was not in the feminine. So I've actually had male coaches who have taught me how to go get it, like go get what you want, right? And it wasn't until I started to do this work in the feminine where that whole idea of what I want came up. And the feminine transformed it through the language of desire. And I want to go further because when we become very progressive as women, grown women with kids, grandchildren, responsibilities in business, and titles and degrees, we have a lot of awareness of what our preferences are and what our wants are. And sometimes even we transfer them and call our wants needs, our preferences needs. And that's also another code for control. Because you never dealt with the unmet need of the little girl. So she's running your life while you're in a suit, sitting at the head of the table with your title and your degree. Nothing wrong with that. But the little girl who is ignored ends up throwing all kind of shade, tantrums, and conflama, what Iyanla calls confusion and drama, into your world, into your relationships, particularly as it relates to love, sex, and money. What do you really, really want? And is what you wanting coming from the place of lack? Can you really answer that? Have you ever had a period of time to give yourself permission to explore that? And if you have you given yourself time to, have you had the experience of exploring it in the feminine? Now, another thing that came up for me is you helping professionals. You say, I want to just help people. I just want to help people. What do you want? What do you want to do? What's your purpose? I don't know. I want to work with women. I've been hearing it all week, helping professionals. To the point that when I heard it the last time today, I told Tisha, I said, I got to teach on this. I'm going to do a whole seminar soon. Let me get through Juicy. But I'm going to do a whole seminar on what they didn't tell me about business, baby, that you need to know. What they didn't tell me that I wish they would have. And some of y'all, I love you, the ones who say, one of my sisters said to me today, she said, I thought I wanted to do that such and such because I seen the lifestyle of other people. And so I just saw the freedom of it. That's what she said. And so I had another conversation with someone who said, who's a social worker. And she said, I want to be a coach. And I said to her, this was also my friend, so I could be quite, transparent with her. And I said, for the life of me, I don't understand sometimes why therapists and social workers who went to school to do therapeutic work want to be coaches. What is it about what you have is not enough? So She gave me a good answer though. She said because when it comes to therapy and stuff, she said that she didn't want to be in the culture of diagnosing anymore. She wasn't interested in that. But there's so many options and within that particular degree. But what happens is when we put our eyes on other people and we're still using the measurements of what we see other people having or not having, we then start to say, I want that. And so whatever they did to get it, you think that that's what you need to get it. And what you need to do to receive what it is for you, what is not necessarily the same thing. And this whole coaching market is so saturated. I really don't, if you go look at my website, I don't really, and Stacy is working on my website right now. I really don't like calling myself a coach anymore because I don't like doing what everybody else is doing. I have had people come to me and say, yeah, I'm thinking about living abroad too. I want to go to Costa Rica. Now, I'm not throwing no shade to those of you who if this applies to you. And well, I've been thinking about going abroad too. Girl, when? So you've seen other people, you've seen one person go abroad and you're like, well, I want to live abroad too. Child, please. Listen. I don't call myself a coach for a reason. One, I'm the Rev coach because that's out in the marketplace. It really was something that was spirit revealed, and it's pretty much trademarked. It's me. I am a reverend. I am a coach, and I would rather be the Rev coach than just what is that, right? And I'm just using this as an example. Because little girls start doing it when we see our friends get married. It could be especially down south. Down south, you could see somebody, they're getting married. They get married right sometimes out of high school and college. And so you start following this timeline. So then you get married. And once you get married, everybody starts saying, so when you gonna have a baby? And so now, if you don't have the baby right after you get married, then people start asking you, well, what's wrong? What's wrong? You ain't had a baby yet. And then if you have a baby, if you start having too many children, then people start, girl, why you having all those children? So we get a lot. I like, Tisha, I saw what you said. You said comparison living, right? And little girls, sometimes we grow up doing that because the nature of little girls is to watch their mother. And so depending on what her model is, what we've seen, we made some decisions about what it is that are our preferences and our wants and sometimes when the mother, the father, the parents have not met our needs, we start to look at life about how we're going to get those needs met. So for instance, I'll take a neutral example of, let's say, a lot of times, a lot of millionaires have a poverty story. And so the degree of poverty that they lived in oftentimes motivated their drive to never be poor again. Unmet needs that fed their wants and their preferences. Is that a good example? But then what happens when the little girl has unmet needs where her father was not in the house? And so when your longing for and your desire for father gets transferred into the longing and desire to have a man. And then when you get the man now needs to feed the unmet needs that turns into wants and preferences that started with the unmet need. And so all of that is projected also onto the man. Now, this is not to say that we shouldn't have and know them, but we ought to do whatever the work is in the feminine to learn and distinguish between the wants, needs, and preferences. Because even if we look at the wants and know that wanting comes from lack, you still need to look at what you've been wanting. And a lot of times for many of us, we don't know the answer because we only know what we don't want. And that's okay. That's a starting place. Knowing what you don't want oftentimes is a great place. And so it is sometimes really arrogant of us as women when we pretend through projection. And I don't even know if pretend is the right word, because for oftentimes we're so guarded and full of lists and agendas and timelines that we haven't even given ourselves a chance to fully explore. I often tease in our juicy spaces, I say a lot of times to women, a lot of times we are so busy focused on how to be the wife or trying to be a wife that we've never given ourselves the space just to be a good date, much less a girlfriend. And so we go into dates with an agenda. And then the marriage, the ceremony of the wedding, that is not the marriage. That's not the marriage. And I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something funny. And I want you to give me your feedback, and then I'm going to invite Keela on, okay? Keela, let me know if you're still there so we can talk about these needs, wants, and preferences. And this guy, who I respect, I think he works with other men, or was working with other men now. And what he said was, sometimes for men, when they finally choose a wife, they're not necessarily choosing based on Mrs. Right. Because some men oftentimes do not choose women when they're not ready. So if you are the one, you are the choice. He could know you're the choice. But if a man is not ready and you are waiting on him to choose you, a lot of times he doesn't. If he's not ready, he won't choose you. You can that's why y'all can beat him up, badger him. That's another reason why some men can be in relationships with you for 10 years, 11 years, and you're still looking for a ring. And so you look at the time that you've put in. And so some women are willing. They're willing to wait until he's ready. And, if you still are operating on those traditional timelines. And what he said is, men marry Mrs. Right now when he's ready. And that's why it's so easy to get phone calls from men who are married to women who they let get away. That's how come it's so easy for them to revisit conversation. And I'm not just saying men. Let me just be honest, because there's plenty of sisters who also have married the man who is the safe choice because it made sense. Not necessarily her real choice. Because a lot of times we don't really believe that we can have what it is that we really, really want. And I can tell on myself. Let me just talk about myself. I remember I was getting out. I was divorced, and I was almost married again to someone who was just precious to me. Peace and blessings upon him. He's not alive anymore. And I was almost a first lady, y'all. I mean, he was a really progressive pastor in Mississippi. And we would just, it was just really beautiful. And it wasn't, the timing was just so off. And so, I'm single again, and I had to learn how to be single, because I got married at 19. So I had to learn how to be a woman out in the world and explore preferences. And, I didn't know how. I didn't have the tools. Not really. And so I learned. And so I remember that my next serious boyfriend, it took me a long time to really soften to him, because he was he was really, really cute. He looked like the universal other. I mean, we go somewhere, the Dominicans would think he's Dominican. The Puerto Ricans would think he's Puerto Rican. Sometimes the Middle Easterners would look at him twice because they thought he was Middle Eastern. Now, let me tell you a little bit of background. Y'all know I like to be transparent, because that way you can see a model of transparency, because some of y'all be hiding some shit that just, it's like, it's hiding you. You think you're hiding it, but it's hiding you. So anyway, I had to have this conversation with myself one day using my own coaching skills. And I had to ask, what is this? What is this thing that you have with him? What is it that you don't believe, right? And I had to be honest with myself that I was not always the choice of a man who looked like him, at least in high school. So I developed a little bit of the complex, because a lot of the boys that I liked or that was into, they would be into my cousin. My cousin was light skinned and, cheerleader, ballerina, and all of these things, that I wanted to do. A lot of times that's when I get into the story with my mother holding me, not allowing me to do some of the things that I wanted to do. And so I started to think, well, they don't like me. I'm not pretty, or whatever the case may be. And so when this guy just really latched on to me, I was thinking, like very deep in my unconscious, like, does he really want me? And so fast forward the tape, I was aware of that. And sometimes you can be aware of your unmet need, your pathology, and still move forward. And so and not do anything. So I'm enjoying our time together and that type of thing. Here's where it comes up again. Now I'm starting to see some flags, some red flags, and that bell went off on the inside again. And this time I knew something was off in some of the things that he was saying. It just didn't add up. And a part of me accepted the discomfort of knowing that I was possibly lied to, because of that original feeling of, well, he's my choice. And I'm his choice. And of course he had a whole lot to say to convince me. And later on, of course, I got free from that relationship. It actually ended up being a very abusive relationship. Very abusive. And I kept that secret as well. Sure did. He was so good. He was such a good liar that one time, I've never shared this before. Publicly, I should say. I've shared it, but not publicly. We got into, no, let me see. Because it was mutual. Sometimes there was mutual fighting. But this time I said something. He didn't like what I said. He came up across from the other side of the room to knock the shit out of me. And I started to fight. And when I fought him back, I think I hit him pretty good. And he spat on me. And that's when I knew I had to get away from him. Because either I was going to kill him or he was going to kill me. And I ran to the neighbor's house. And I asked them to call the police. And when the police came, the boy was so good that he weaved a lie around to the police that the police said, we'll have to take both of you to jail. Well, the good girl in me is like, jail? Oh, hell no. Like, what do I need to do? Like, jail? Like me? Like, what? And so I can understand for those women who've ever been in a domestic violence situation where the law screws you over. And so what do you do? Because he had done what he did. He spat on me. Woo! And of course he called me a name when he did it. I think he kicked me. Yeah. I got away from him, and at that time I had a coach who was a man. Peace and blessings upon him. You all hear me talk about him a lot. Master Coach Ron Davis. And of course my brother was there for me. He was there for me in a huge way. He got me, I got secure. I got away from him. I got secure. And he gave me a few days to sit in it. And using some of the technology that some of you all have experienced when you coach with me, he began to take me down this process of looking at what do I really want? What are my unmet needs? What are the preferences? How did you get here? What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about relationships? What do you believe about this, and this? And how are you hiding? And at first I'm like, well, no man should ever hit a woman. No, and that's what we hear out here, right? But we have a lot of women just like me at one point where some of you are vicious with your mouth. And that's not a justification. But we have so many unmet needs with not ever seeing how to deal with and talk to a man in the house. We have so many unmet needs from our own mother that this world has not given us permission to identify and call it what it is. And a lot of that stuff lives right inside of our womb. And when I say the womb, I'm not just talking about the physical womb. I'm talking about the mental, emotional, and spiritual womb. And what my brother did for me when he took me through this place of neutralizing the experience of abuse, he took away my victim card. He took away my victim card because I was headed down the road of this dude is the villain. You should be wanting to kick his ass. And I come from that school where, especially being from the Nation of Islam, I definitely come from a place. And then even that is tricky because I've been in some tricky situations in the Nation of Islam. I'm just going to tell the truth on camera where depending on the level of your politics, and depending on who your husband was, and some of y'all that's in the church can know what I'm talking about, where you cannot go tell on certain people that's an official because they won't believe you. Oh, women, we have definitely had to have some situations and many of us have been through some things. And what he did was he took that away. And I can't tell you everything that he went through, with being in the for the amount of time. But what I can tell you is that I know people who work with me get the benefit of the wisdom that he dropped. And what it did for me, it changed my life. Changed my life. And even people, sometimes a few of my friends who looked on to the situation, they had judgments. Your friends will judge you sometimes when you are leading a life outside of the normal timelines and you're starting to live life on your own terms. And that's another form of abuse for women who are in situations that are unworthy of them. It's another form of abuse when you are having to deal with the judgments and the shoulds. When being on that other side, that is not what you all the time want to hear. In fact, sometimes it's easy for you to stay in an abusive situation when you care so much about what other people think about you. And that's why a lot of people will stay. Anyway, I want to invite Keela on to add some texture to this conversation. We talked about some things, and I thought that what she had to share. Keela, let me see. That's not going to work. Let me see something. Okay. I think, sorry. And I always sometimes have thought that I wanted to, well, I have shared shops that I share quite a bit with my clients and in our processes as we go along. Definitely had some experiences. I don't know, even think my mother and my family knows what I went through at the hands of abuse and men in situations. But I have to be honest. I had to own the fact that there were times that I was also abusive. Okay? So I attracted, maybe not this at the same time, but I attracted the equivalent because I was so angry at men that if a man said a certain thing to me, I was ready to take his. I would fight a man try to fight a man quicker than I would a woman. Now a lot of us don't want to admit that many of us are pissed off with men, and that's why you say you don't take that much. I ain't taking this shit off of no man. So you'll torture him either with your mouth, and some of y'all throw things and y'all don't tell the truth. Y'all call men bitches. Y'all call men whores, especially when y'all call a man a bitch. You might as well be cutting off his balls. Now, it doesn't make it okay for him to call you one, but we don't tell that part, and we don't talk to it, so we can't heal. So the thing about this is look, that speech Oprah Winfrey gave about time's up. Time is up for men to continue to be predators, but that means that if men start doing their healing work, we also are going to have to do ours. Time is up for us to stop hiding. Oh, some of the sisters said, I admit it, I admit it, I admit it. Okay. All right, look at you, beautiful. Welcome.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great today. Thank you.
So yesterday we were talking a little bit, and I said, Keila, I think you should come on and share, because this whole thing around unmet needs, preferences, wants. I'm gonna just let you share because I know you've probably thought about it. I know you.
Probably.
I'm just gonna let you freestyle. What have you learned? You look surprised.
I thought you were going to ask me something direct.
Okay, I'll start with one. What have you since learned about your unmet needs that you're willing to share with your
Uh,
sisters?
I learned that I've carried them with me always, and sometimes I use my unmet needs to project onto the world. about what it is that I haven't met. Um, and I have to, a lot of times I'm in my head about my unmet needs, and I'll have conversations with myself about uh, things that I haven't received that I thought of I should have received. Um, I I've had resentment towards my parents about it. Like, my mother should have done this to protect me. My father should have done this. My grandmother should have done that. Or my husband should have done something else. Some other people should have done more for me. But I've learned that I'm responsible for me and my unmet needs. Even if there's an unmet need that I experienced at 15 or 18 or 30, I'm still responsible
Mm-hmm.
for that. Uh, that's the main thing. It's all my responsibility.
How do you feel about that responsibility thing? Because I'll be honest with you, that was hard for me to really process when I gave the example with the boyfriend that I had that was abusive, but at the same time, I had long known that I had unmet needs as it related to my mother, and because
Mm-hmm.
of that, I kind of had a resentment. I was mad at God for a long time to say, why'd you give me this mother if I can't get what I want from her? So how do you
You said
feel about
something.
responsibility?
Uh, well, I'm gonna go back to that mad at God. I was mad at God for 2 years based on some things happening in my marriage. Now, even though I was mad at God, I was still talking to God. I wrote God a letter every day. Every day I was writing him letters about why I'm mad at him, and or what I'm doing. I said, listen, I'm mad at you, so I'm not going to do A, B, C, and D, but I'm going to continue to be the mother to these little boys and do this and do that. Um, and I was mad at, in my mind, I was mad at God because I thought that if I adhered to all of the rules and uh, to dos that I was taught growing
Yes,
up, that life would be great. Yes. And everything would fall into place for me. But I
girl.
learned it's not about what I do. And I had to learn. And I, I'm going to say this. I love that. Because when I tell people that I was mad at God it was 2 years, Latanya, I was mad. And I wrote him a letter every day for 2 years. I would tell people, I said, I was mad at God for 2 years, and he knew it. It was like, how dare you be mad at God? I said, why not? He get mad at us all the time. Yes, he gets mad at us all the time. Why not? He knew
Who
what
is
I
that
was.
talking? A juicy butterfly over there?
It's
Hey,
Nina.
sweetie.
We watched together. She turned me on. But what I learned was it wasn't about. It wasn't about. It wasn't about me. Um, it was about. It wasn't about what I did. Life isn't going to unfold because I follow rules and regulations. My relationship with God is based on my relationship with God and not some rules and regulations. So I learned that I have to go through things to learn about me and about life, and to be that resource for whoever comes in contact with me. Did I answer your question?
Ashe. That's beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
girl. That's good right there. Because a lot of times the weight of that whatever it is that I desire, I can supply it to myself. A lot of women don't want to hear that. And I talked about this in Super Soul Sunday. I think I did at towards maybe the middle of my sharing, Rebirth Sunday, not Super Soul Sunday anymore. Um, we are spiritually lazy. A lot of us are spiritually lazy. And so we don't want to do the work. And that is also a lot of times when you have a lot of traditional beliefs, we're looking for a man to be our ATM machine, our knight in shining armor, to rescue us from toxic parents and households. And so you want the man to rescue you from the toxic household, not knowing, having any knowledge of universal law, that if I've only known toxic, that I'm going to attract toxic to me until you clear it. So a lot of us don't know that. Now when it comes to um now you're smart, you're super smart, you run it, you are,
Okay.
you are.
Uh-huh.
So, how did it feel being such a smart woman? And I'm cheating a little bit because I know have a little background, um, and get to a place of feeling like being able to say to yourself, "I don't really know what I want."
Um, it was humbling.
Mm.
It took me down. It was humbling. Getting to a place where I don't know what I want. I would say over the years I would go to, I think I want this and then I don't want this. I think I want this and then I don't want it. So because I had experienced it so many times, well, this is what I want.
Right?
This is what I want. This is what I want.
Yeah.
Going back and forth, and having gone through that experience so many times, it's easy to, accept it. Okay, well, I don't know what I want. It was because of the experience, but knowing what I know, like I thought I wanted the life that I had, that I was living, but living that life that I had and living it, I was like, I don't want this. This is not for me.
Yes. You setting somebody free right
It
now.
hurt. It well, I didn't want it, so it was in my heart. I didn't want it. I don't want this. It's not for me, and it was
How did
painful
you know? How did
because
you know when you got there that you had the courage enough to say that to yourself? And I want to let me put this out there for those listening. It could be entrepreneurship. Some of y'all think y'all want to be entrepreneurs till you jump out here. Some of you think you want to be mothers until you have the baby. I want to deal with the things that nobody allows you the room to say. Some of you, I want to deal with the stuff the things we protect. Some of you thought you wanted to have more than one child, and then you have 2 and 3 children, and your ass is overwhelmed, and you don't like your children.
mm,
And so now you hide it, you stuff it. So I'm asking you to speak to the sister who, if you ever was her, right? I've been in situations where I'm like, I thought I wanted this. When I at one point, now I don't regret it, but when I lived abroad, at one point I said, damn, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But it's not that I didn't want that. I did want that, but it definitely, you gotta want it. And so if people who are talking about even living abroad are just doing it just because you're trying to escape from something, or you're just trying to think that it's gonna be easier, no, it requires a whole nother skill set. So,
Indeed. Amen.
yeah.
oh, look at Tanaj. Tanaj is in the house. And that's my girl from Thailand. She's in Thailand right now. And so I'm gonna bring her on. If you got an internet signal and you can come on live, even though she's a new expat, she knows what I'm talking about. But
Mm.
go ahead.
Um, when I thought I wanted something, how did it feel when I realized I didn't want it, or
Yeah,
because
how did you know? Like, how did you
oh,
get to that point of courage to tell the truth?
pain. I had to feel the pain. That's how I knew
Ugh.
it hurt, and those. So some of it started with me revisiting. Remember, I said I was mad at God for 2 years, and I wrote him letters. So when I went back after that time was over, and I learned a lesson from that, I would go back and read stuff that I wrote years ago, and I went back and I was reading. And I thought, and I was reevaluating things that I'd written to myself, and I said, "Oh, I don't want this." So after reevaluating myself, sometimes it has to sit, and I go back and look at it. But one thing I thought I wanted to stay married. I realized I didn't want to stay married when I was afraid for my children. I didn't want them to be orphans because my husband and I, one of us was going to kill the other one.
Mm, mm.
Uh, so when I was Yeah. That's
But there's a woman out there who knows that she doesn't want to be married, but she also is too afraid to be divorced.
Mm, mm.
oh, well, yeah. I was afraid to stay married. I was afraid
Somebody gonna
I
die.
was
Mhm.
going to poison him. He was going to kill me in my sleep. Who knows? I don't know what could have happened, but I was afraid that that could happen, and I really didn't want that to happen.
Hallelujah.
Um,
So what would you say to is in closing, what would you say to, with you getting some support, because, as melanated people, a lot of times we have this thing about really being supported when we are smart, brilliant, and black. What,
Mhm.
what would you, in closing, what would you say to the woman who ever, if you can remember, before you got to the place of saying, okay, I got to do something about it. I got to get unstuck.
um, it's okay to ask for help. It really is. And
Mm,
it's okay to say, I changed my mind.
Yes.
As women, we have the prerogative to say, I changed my mind. I wanted to wear red
mhm.
today, but I changed my mind. By the way, I'm wearing purple too. I changed my. It's okay to say I changed my mind, and it's okay to look like you're not smart. Like when I figured out certain things were going on in my life, I started out angry at myself for one being ignorant. So I was angry at myself. I'm smarter than this. I should have known better.
Mm, mm,
Oh, I've done that too.
I'm
mm,
smarter than this. I should have known better. But I wasn't smarter than that. I didn't know,
mm,
and it's okay not to know. And you keep saying it's the experience. So I'm glad I got that experience, even though it hurt.
mm, mm.
Hmm.
Even though it hurt, because it lets me know I'm still alive. I can still feel, even though it hurt. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and
Yeah, because the woman, you saying some powerful things, girl, because the woman
yeah.
who cannot feel herself anymore, she's more dangerous. It's dangerous to be numb.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I
you
may
said
have had.
something else. You said something else. You said it's okay not to look smart. Damn, that's good, Keela.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's
okay not to
good
look
right
smart because
there.
nobody has all the answers. I don't have all the answers, so it was okay not to look smart. It was okay, and it was okay to ask for help. I think in my case, I had people around me who saw my pain as well.
Mm,
They gave me resources. They reached out to me and they gave me resources, things that I could do to help me.
mm.
You know,
Hmm.
like my boss gave me the phone number of a place that I could call. I was in counseling. My counselor gave me another resource, and sometimes people would give me the exact same resource, and I'm very thankful
Hmm.
for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Very
Whew,
thankful.
that's good. I gotta have more of you juicy women in this space. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh,
I'm looking forward to the sisters seeing how much brilliance we have in the community. I appreciate you joining me.
thank you for having me. Okay.
All right. All right. So now I want to, just for the sake of adding some texture to the conversation, I'm gonna see if I can find her. I'm looking for Tanaj. There she is. I'm 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 adding you. Tanaj is coming to us from Thailand, y'all. Good girls gone goddesses all the way in Thailand. I'll take it because I'm going to see her soon. Yep. So I'm adding Tanaj to the conversation. Um, and I met Tanaj. Uh-oh, I don't know. She said, it looks like it said declined. Can you not join us, Tanaj? I wanted her to share for those of you who are looking at everybody who's saying, I want to go do that, or you feel like you can't live abroad. Okay, she said my signal is horrible. Understood. So anyway, Tisha says, damn, that makes sense. Being told you know better all the time kept me in the place of, once I decided it is okay to change your mind. Yes, I did that to myself. It and I say this, y'all know I have said this, for those of you who have coached with me, you know that I've said this. Self-betrayal is a hard one for a woman to recover from. Self-betrayal is a difficult thing. It's more, to me, it's more difficult than abuse. It's more difficult than the loss of a job. To me, self-betrayal was the biggest thing. And that's when you do know better and you don't do what you know. And so for a long time, I asked myself the question, how did I get here? I knew better. I kept saying, I knew better. I did know what I wanted. I did know what my preferences was. And I still made a decision to stay in some situations that did not honor me. I saw red flags and I made excuses for them. And of course, I did the work. But what I want to say to you is, when you feel like you did know better and you proceeded anyway, to stay with that question of, how did I make this decision? Because I know, in terms of spiritual language, if I had really known better, I would have done better. I know that. But at the same time, because taking the time to live inside of that question really helped me to get into the roots, into the places that made me in a place of freedom that I have now when it comes to love and relationships. I really had to put that good girl on the ropes. There were times I had to kick that good girl's ass. Because see, for me, when I kept on asking that question, I was able to see how I check out. I was able to see how I do get what I want. Now I want to close on this. The biggest thing that turned my life around was when I said, I have gotten everything that I wanted. I really had. Hey, Carol. And I got that husband because I am an awesome manifester, and many of you are too. I got exactly what I wanted at that time. But a lot of times, and I want to be clear on this. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want, it's a twist. How do I say this in a way that it's not rubbing anybody the wrong way? Because I really got I have always gotten what I wanted. But what I knew, it was time for me to raise my standard. It was time for me to look at what I wanted. Why did I want that? Because I got the safe choice. I have had the experience of getting the safe choice. I remember very clearly with this, and I write this in the book. I talk about this in the book. Spirit said, leave that little old country boy where you found him. You are too much for him. But the truth of the matter was, I was tired. I was tired of dating. It seemed so easy. Because I didn't want to do it anymore. And so I had to deal with that, y'all. Uh-oh. He said rub. I had to deal with that. I had to deal with, I did get what I wanted. But did I want it? What do I do when I didn't want it anymore? So I needed to get clear so that what I have, I have what I want, and I want what I have. So the Juicy You helps you to begin to look at these preliminary conversations. It helps to open you up to yourself again. If I could say that in one word, it helps you to open you up to the blind spots. And you know, my promise as the Rev coach is that I turn blind spots into breakthroughs. And the Juicy You is one of the ways to begin that process. Tisha says, here is also another thing. Like once uncovered a layer, I was attached to it fervently. Without sounding like my 12-year-old self, I don't want to be attached to things anymore. I desire connection more than attaching. Okay, so I know you're probably trying to type fast, so let me see if I got this right. You're saying that once you uncovered a layer, you were attached to whatever it was even after you uncovered it. And so now you're realizing that you don't want to be attached anymore, that you want connection. Is that right? Did I get that right? Okay, I see. All right, good. Whoo, Nina says she's running a victory lap. Set this captive free. And you know what? I used to say that when I first came, when I first answered the call to ministry and I started to do my preparation, I felt called to set the captive slave free, because many of us we're okay with bondage as long as the bills get paid. We're okay with bondage as long as it's familiar. We're okay with bondage as long as you don't have to give up anything. And hey, do whatever works for you. But I am here for the woman who says, I want to play a bigger game. I want to play a bigger game in my womanhood. I'm interested in seeing the free version of myself, the one that has wings, the one that can say be, and it is. And so anywho, I love you all. There's nothing you can do about it. Come into the Juicy You and join us in this special edition. Anyone who enrolls, you have to enroll today though. Let me see what time because we go live tonight. Opening session is tonight at 9 p.m. Registration is open for 1 week after. And what else do I want to tell you? If you register today, you will get a free natal natal chart reading in your activation session. So I do thank you all for sharing your stories, for having this conversation with me. Juicy Butterflies, those of you who are in the community, if you invite another sister to join you in the Juicy You, I have a special offer for you. Send me your inbox if you have a sister friend that wants to take this ride. So I'll see you all on the other side. Ciao, everyone.